Good morning, beautiful people. How are you all today? It is a gorgeous day here in North Carolina. It is a gorgeous day, let me tell you. Let me tell you, it's a gorgeous day. One of the best days. Sorry. I can't believe that I started doing my own Trump voice. Let me make sure. I appreciate every single one of you. Who can send messages? Subscribers. There we go. Perfect. Yeah. Good morning, beautiful people. Hello. Hello. Akicha, good morning. Whew. Oh my goodness gracious. So I'm sorry, I have to stand up and stretch really quickly. Hold on. Whew. Good morning. How's everyone doing? Hello. Hi, Ellie. How's it going? Akicha, good morning. Oh my goodness, y'all. Oh my goodness gracious. So, we're going to talk about something that's like truly, we talk about a lot of things that are absurd, but this is just classic Republican nonsense. So we're going to get into all of it. I love all of you so much. Please make sure to like and share the stream. It really does help greatly. So, I don't know what day this specifically was. This was a couple days back, but I always take a break over the weekend from my normal live shows. Republican Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa has been a little bit more in the news lately because she had a very baffling response to someone who was critiquing her defending the cuts to Medicaid. So, we're going to be breaking all of that down, this whole moment, and then her making it even worse. Yeah, no, you heard me. Making it even worse by basically I'm sorry, I'm just going through and making sure something really quickly. Basically, she just makes it worse with her rhetoric, and it's not great. So, anyway, please make sure to like the stream. I love all of you. Let's get into it, shall we? All right. Good morning, beautiful people. Republican Senator Joni Ernst defends proposed Medicaid cuts. We're all going to die. Her comment came in response to an attendee who yelled that proposed Republican cuts to Medicaid would cost lives, because they will. And this was a town hall that she was having, and I believe it was in either Parkersburg or Knoxville, Iowa. I'm not quite sure specifically where it was. I'd have to double check that. But this is just an absurd response. Like, to people who are genuinely concerned that there are going to be cuts to healthcare access and programs, someone just responds, we're all going to die anyway. What? That is so tone deaf. It's like you're taking a pro-cruelty position from a party of people that like to try and be holier than thou and push everyone to try and follow their religion. It's crazy. So let me get into it here. Good morning, everyone. I appreciate every single one of you. Y'all are awesome. So, Senator Joni Ernst, a Republican of Iowa, was repeatedly pressed on cuts to Medicaid in the House's budget bill at a town hall in her home state on Friday. Yeah, so, okay, this was on Friday. And she pushed back on an attendee who said the cuts would then lead to deaths. She said, people are not, we're all going to die, so for heaven's sakes, she said, prompting resounding jeers. So some person was basically saying, we're all going to, people are going to die, And she's like, well, we're all going to die. Unless you're Tuck Everlasting or you some sort of immortal person, yes, we are all going to die. But you also have to put into context that cutting access to healthcare is going to lead to poor and marginalized people dying so much faster. You want to be a Republican these days? Take a pro-cruelty position. That's what it's really turning into. Just imagine if a Democrat were to have said that in response to Republicans asking, why do you want to go and cut healthcare access? You say, well, we're all going to die. That would be awful. Like, if you put the shoe on the other foot, it's indefensible. So why is it when this shoe is on this foot, you're just like, oh, that's not, it makes perfect sense. Stop just shilling for a team and look at the substance. The exchange between the attendee complaining to Ernst that the bill would give significant tax breaks to the ultra-wealthy while kicking some people off of Medicaid and food stamps programs. It began when that was all happening. Ernst said the only people who face getting booted are those who should not be on Medicaid in the first place. They're not currently eligible by the original definition of Medicaid, and they will then be moved off of those Medicaid rolls. You mean being kicked off. Now, something that we're going to be talking a lot about today is how Republicans continue to go on this tirade saying that undocumented immigrants are receiving Medicaid access. Now, I want to be clear about something. Undocumented or illegal, undocumented people cannot receive Medicaid unless it is for some limited version of emergency services. Let me say that again. Undocumented immigrants, illegal immigrants, non-citizens, cannot receive Medicaid. They are ineligible to receive Medicaid. Thereby, they can't be kicked off Medicaid because they're not on it in the first place. Get it? Now, there's a limited scope that does cover a tiny bit for services for undocumented people. And that is emergency services, like if you are undocumented and you go to the hospital because you are in danger of literally dying. You know, when you go to the hospital, they're not going to be like, are you a citizen? They're going to serve you and then give you a huge bill afterwards. That all being said, there's also very limited coverage under Medicaid for undocumented people, but only in extreme emergency circumstances. If you go through and actually try to apply for Medicaid without being a citizen, you will be denied, period, full stop. The only thing that you will get is those emergency exemptions. Now, of course, that doesn't stop the Republicans from constantly lying about it. Joni Ernst later claimed that 1.4 million undocumented immigrants are receiving Medicaid benefits. That figure, which the White House and other top Republican officials have cited, is based on a Congressional Budget Office analysis. It says that one provision of the bill would cause 1.4 million people to lose coverage, including, but not limited to, those without verified immigration status. Let me actually show you proof of this. So, you're going to see Republicans acting as robots, nonstop, whining, bitching, and complaining and moaning that all these undocumented illegals are accessing healthcare services. First off, is that a bad thing? Don't you think that it's important for everyone to be able to access some healthcare services? Like, whether you want to say like, oh, well, they're not official citizens. You're taking a very pro-cruelty position. Like, how do you think Jesus would react? How do you think Jesus would react to you taking a pro-cruelty position, saying that, oh, because you're not a citizen, that you can't get healthcare coverage, or at least emergency coverage? This is why we need Medicare for all. But you know what I mean. The party of pro-life people are literally taking away healthcare from people. Make that make sense. Make that make sense. How can you say that you are pro-life when you are literally taking away healthcare from people? You can't. So let me actually go through and show you the specifics here. Medicaid is a joint federal and state government program that provides health coverage for low-income individuals and families. People living in the U.S. illegally are not eligible to receive Medicaid benefits other than emergency medical services. That's it. It's under, if you go to Medicaid.gov, an official government website, you will see the eligibility policy. It says in here, to be eligible for Medicaid, individuals must also meet non-financial eligibility criteria, meaning like you have to be at a certain income and lower, and then you also have to have all these other eligible things. So, Medicaid beneficiaries generally must be residents of the state in which they are receiving Medicaid. They must either be citizens of the United States or certain qualified non-citizens, such as lawful permanent residents. Such as, like there were like some of those Haitians are one of those groups that were fleeing, or Venezuelans that had temporary protected status. Those are some of those examples. In addition, some eligibility groups are limited by age or by pregnancy or parenting status. So as a general rule, you cannot be on Medicaid if you are an undocumented person. So with all of these Republicans going around to these town halls, how can they be saying, oh, we're taking undocumented people off of Medicaid, when they aren't on it to begin with? Unless it's for small coverage for emergency services. Now, if you say, well, we should take away emergency services for undocumented people, then go to church and say that you actually believe in Christ and love everyone and think that that's good. Like, go welcome yourself up to that hypocrisy and that pro-cruelty position. Look, it shouldn't be up for debate. We should not be trying to take away emergency services or some amount of small financial coverage for people that have to go to the emergency room just because they are not documented. Plus, what does that look like? The reason why we have that in place, imagine your loved one is suffering from a very, very dangerous, they got in a car wreck and they need to go to the hospital. They need to go to the emergency room. They're in critical condition. Do you really think that the doctor's gonna be like, are you a citizen of the United States? If you are, then great, we'll give you coverage. If not, then we're not. No. Like, physicians cannot ask that kind of question. They're going to provide that care. Now, where the hospital system is effed up is that they then give you a huge amount of like, oh, this is your bill after all of this, and then you go into debt. So the reason why we have that, and if you want to get into the real specifics of all of it, there are all these pieces of legislation that specifically talk about this. And if you really want to get down to it, the only coverage that undocumented people get on Medicaid is specifically through WIC. Is specifically through something called WIC, which is a program that actually extends some emergency services and nutrition for women who are pregnant or infants and stuff like that. But in general, undocumented people undocumented immigrants without permanent status, like DACA, temporary protected status holders, or non-immigrant visa holders, are barred from access to most federal benefits, including things like Medicaid. So how can it be that you kick someone off of Medicaid when they aren't on it to begin with? This was an act that was passed in 1996. So you can't have that. Now, to go a little bit further here, under the law, undocumented immigrants may only access federal benefits that are deemed necessary to protect life or guarantee safety in dire situations, such as emergency Medicaid for like hospital emergency rooms, or some healthcare nutritional programs under SNAP specifically for women and children, or that's also called WIC, women, infants, and children. The eligibility requirements for any sort of undocumented person that has access to any sort of Medicaid services includes pregnant women throughout pregnancy, breastfeeding women, non-breastfeeding postpartum women up to 6 months after pregnancy ends, infants, and children. To the party of people that like to say that they're pro-life, you are literally advocating for taking away the tiniest little bit of emergency Medicaid services for pregnant women. How is that fucking pro-life? See, it's not. It's not. When you really look at it, there's no consistency amongst any sort of Republican ideology. There's no consistency whatsoever, except for hate and degradation. The only tiny little bit of Medicaid that undocumented people get is if you are a woman that is pregnant or recently birthed a child. And Republicans are trying to take that away. How is that pro-life? How is that pro-life? Huh? If you're enjoying the stream, please make sure to send some likes. Also, the law that basically talks about how you can't be discriminated against when you go to the emergency room is a law called EMTALA. It ensures that all patients, regardless of citizenship or immigration status, have access to emergency medical services. The purpose of EMTALA is to ensure that all Medicare participating hospitals do not turn away individuals who need life-saving care. Undocumented immigrants use EMTALA-related services, and that's often covered via emergency Medicaid. Basically, all of this is to say, when Joni Ernst responds, "Oh, well, we're all gonna die," she's basically just saying, you know, we're just trying to take away coverage from people, the little small bare bones bit that we give to people. You know, we're all gonna die anyway, so why not make them die faster? So here's some quick little takeaways before I read some of the comments where they were completely dragging her, okay? First off, undocumented immigrants are not eligible for Medicaid. Let me say that again. Undocumented immigrants are not eligible for Medicaid. Thereby, they cannot be kicked off of a program that they're not eligible for because they were never on it to begin with. Never on it to begin with. So, the only small bit of access that these people get under Medicaid is emergency services. Emergency services. So if you go to the emergency room, you're in a huge car wreck, you are severely injured, you need life-critical saving care, you go to the doctor, you go to the emergency room, they're not going to ask you in order to receive treatment if you're a citizen. There's a law, EMTALA. EMTALA is a law that says that people that medical professionals in hospitals cannot ask for your citizenship status when you are in the emergency room. I think that's generally a good thing, because if you're in an emergency, it shouldn't matter of whatever your thing is. And that's the thing. And you're saying, oh, well, they should be asking for citizenship. How about we be people? Like, stop worrying so much about whether someone is official citizen or not. I know that might sound crazy, but think about it like this. We're all in this together. Like, obviously we want to have a system where we vet people and all of that stuff. Sure. I'm not against that. But also, let's see people as people first. Like, think of it, oh, you're not a member of our specific club. That doesn't mean that you're a jerk to them. Doesn't mean you deny coverage to them. That doesn't mean that you are cruel to them. How about be a human and extend empathy? And the people who are being snobs about citizenship, y'all are the ones that supposedly are super pro-life. Super all about Jesus. The thing is, Jesus would literally be shaking his head at your responses to all of this stuff. Jesus would be that person that literally is an undocumented person that you're trying to cut off of Medicaid. That's the kind of guy Jesus was. And this is why it's so hard for me to get back on board with being in religion. I'm still figuring out, I grew up as a very, very strong Christian, and I'm still trying to figure out, like, where that's going. A lot of Christianity has been hijacked by people that have bad intentions anyway. But that all being said, the hypocrisy is astounding to me on that front. Now, the small little bit of possible Medicaid coverage that undocumented people get is emergency Medicaid, or a tiny bit of coverage for women who recently birthed a child. So through WIC, Women, Infants, and Children. There's a tiny little bit of Medicaid coverage that undocumented people get with pregnant women throughout pregnancy, breastfeeding women up to infant's first birthday, non-breastfeeding postpartum women up to 6 months, infants and children through their 5th birthday. What Republicans are advocating for is literally taking that coverage away. And then they have the audacity to say that they are pro-life. If you were so pro-life, you wouldn't be trying to take away any of that. You say, oh, I'm pro-life. But whose life are you talking about? You can't pick and if you're going to say you're pro-life, you can't pick and choose whose life matters and whose life doesn't. And that's the thing. That's the thing. You can't pick and choose that. You can't. Because that's just cruel. So, anyway, let me get to some of the comments here in regards to Joni Ernst, because it gets even more crazy. Okay, so during this exchange, she was talking about how, like, in response to someone saying, well, people are going to die, she goes, well, we're all going to die. Well, no dip, Sherlock. Like, goddamn. And the thing is, it's super, super tone deaf. It's like she's trying to accelerate the speed at which vulnerable people die. Like, that's really what it turns into. So this person's like, this is a play on, you know, the political signs you see all the time. Of course, the elephant is the symbol of the Republican Party. And it's like, the Republican Party, we're all gonna die. I just thought that one was funny. And let me get to some of these other comments by people. Ken Martin, who's the new DNC chair, I'm not the biggest fan of him, but for several reasons. But he was like, look, she said the quiet part out loud. She's saying the quiet part out loud. It shows that they don't care about whether their own constituents live or die, so as long as the rich get richer. I mean, spot on, dude. Credit where credit is due. And it made me think of, and I saw so many different memes and responses. You know, Lord Farquaad. It's like, some of you may die, but that is the sacrifice that I am willing to make. It's just, yeah, Joni Ernst is just giving Lord Farquaad. And it's led to so many people doing memes and stuff like that all over. So I just... This bill tries to strip people of Medicaid even further. It cuts requirements, everything like that. It's awful. That's what the bill does. Well, it gives out tax breaks to the richest of the rich people. Now, I originally used this meme when it came to Trump on tariffs, where he said, will there be some pain? Yes, maybe, and maybe not, but it will all be worth it. You all remember that? So I was like, oh my God, it's giving Lord Farquaad. Well, it's trickling down to people like Joni Ernst. So I want to read off some comments in response to some of this. Finally, the GOP publicly reveals their platform. We're all gonna die, and they're doing the best to accelerate that for the most vulnerable people. Oops, she said the quiet part out loud. MAGA is heartless, hate-based movement. They're born of Republican ethos. I've got mine, now F you. That is so true. Like, everyone that is an elected lawmaker has really, really good health care. Honestly, they should have the minimum of the minimum of the minimum of what everyone else gets. Just saying. Like, if you're a public servant and you need to be tuned in and in touch with people, then you need to be living at their level. Sorry. Like, in a sense, I totally agree with that. How can you be more out of touch? Iowans deserve better than this clown. And that's truly, like, call me crazy, but people, like, no, I'm not crazy, but it doesn't matter where you live. Iowans, it doesn't matter your race, sexual orientation, gender identity, or partisanship. Y'all deserve better than Joni Ernst. There was someone that was saying, hey, these Medicaid cuts are going to kill people. And her response is, well, we're all going to die. You deserve better than someone who comes back at that. Like, think if this was a Democrat. Think if Joni Ernst was a Democrat. Just take out the fact that she's a Republican, put in place that she's a Democrat. If I go to a town hall and I am saying to my senator, in this scenario, let's say that Joni Ernst is a Democrat, and I'm saying, hey, Senator, please don't vote for this bill because it's going to cut Medicaid, and that's going to lead to people dying. And she would respond, well, we're all going to die. I'd be like, excuse me? What? That's insane. What are you talking about? Like, if you really just are critical and look at it outside of the whole partisanship, outside of the whole political party crap, you'll see that and be like, that's absurd. And Republicans, MAGA, y'all would be all over that stuff. And rightfully so. Rightfully so. Now let's come back to reality. You decide to change your position based on convenience? That's all that it is. Have an ideology. Have principles. Call out craziness where it is. It's okay. It's okay to do that. So, but the reason why I do that exercise in critical thinking is that many people just don't do it. But you also haven't been given the empowerment to do so. Because MAGA, this is a small little side tangent, MAGA profits off of making their followers, MAGA people, into robots for their own personal gain. They distract you with fear-mongering about Marco with a backpack, an undocumented person fleeing from his country of violence and economic instability and environmental instability, trying to come to this country for a better life. They're fear-mongering about Marco with a backpack. Meanwhile, they're cutting Medicaid. They're cutting access to health coverage. They are cutting taxes for the most wealthy people. It's a classic thing that the rich do. They try and sow division amongst the masses with culture war nonsense crap in order to divide and conquer. They're literally doing this hoodwink thing for all of their MAGA people, where it's like, look, a brown person, look, a gay guy, oh my god, a drag queen, look over there. And then they're running out the door in the back with all of the money. That's what they do. MAGA, y'all are literally playing into the rich people's hands. Stop. Just going even further here. There were also a lot of comments by people that they just truly didn't understand. They just truly did not understand. This person's like, fake news, as usual. We're removing 1.4 illegal aliens from receiving Medicaid benefits. They're not eligible. You're right. Illegal aliens or undocumented people are not eligible to be on Medicaid in the first place. Thereby, they are not on it to begin with. You can't remove someone from a program if they were never a part of it in the first place. Tell me, how can you remove a whole bunch of players from a team if they're not on it to begin with? If you're a football team and you have linebackers, how can you remove any linebackers or a quarterback if there's no quarterback on the team to begin with? Like, how can you remove something that's not already a part of it? It doesn't make sense. And so these people just truly don't understand at all. And so I responded to several of them, and my phone is getting really, really hot. So I am going to, I'm gonna have to turn on my car here to cool it down a little bit. Hold on a second. It's like, this person says, well, why are American citizens so uneducated and inept? And I'm like, that is a good question, dude. Let me make sure that my Bluetooth isn't on, because then it would connect to my car. Okay, it's good. They cannot by law cut anyone off of those programs except illegals. Yes, they can. The same way that they created these programs, they can shrink these programs. They can expand access or reduce access to coverage for anyone, not just undocumented people. He's like, wake the F up. Why is it that these people always project? They're always screaming into social media. They're always screaming into social media when they're so objectively wrong. And I responded, dude, yes, they can cut those programs for American citizens the same way they created and expanded coverage in the past. Also, undocumented people are already not eligible. If you bother to look at the requirements for Medicaid, you would see that. Again, the only small amount of emergency Medicaid coverage that undocumented people get is for when they go to the emergency room. Because doctors are not going to ask if you are a citizen in order to receive emergency treatment. And so you have all these people that are screaming about undocumented people being on Medicaid. That's not a thing. It's not a thing. It's not a thing. The Congressional Budget Office was like, yeah, they're going to knock 1.4 million people off of Medicaid. Yes, but that 1.4 million people are not undocumented people. It's just so frustrating to me. Plus, if you are defending knocking people off of Medicaid, you know what you're advocating for? A pro-cruelty position that's going to lead to people dying. Then go to church the next week and be like, I'm a Christian. I love everyone. I just want everyone to know that Jesus loves them. You literally are taking a pro-cruelty position. Sorry, call me radical, but I think regardless of citizenship status, you should receive access to healthcare. Because I don't see people as purely, are you a citizen or not? I am not going to sit, like, think of this. How would Jesus react to those people that say that you're only going to receive healthcare access if you're a citizen? He would say, well, love thy neighbor as thyself. Seek to be last, not first. It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of the needle than for a rich man to get into the kingdom of God. He says, welcome the stranger. Like, how is it that these far right-wing people can try and bastardize their book, the Bible, completely misinterpret the whole thing, and not take away those critical lessons that Jesus talks about? Jesus would be that person, that undocumented immigrant that is kicked off of Medicaid. It's classic. It's classic. A lot of times religion is used by people for nefarious purposes. But like in this case, it's just so wild that people are so brainwashed into thinking that. But again, there are a couple different laws that specifically say that the only Medicaid access, the small little bit, is emergency services. Emergency services. Like if you go to the emergency room. So just pointing that all out here. Doesn't stop all these far right-wing people from screaming into social media being like, oh my God, dude, you cannot cut people from a program they're not on. You just can't. He's like, I'm all for getting illegals off of Medicare and Medicaid. And I'm like, they're not on it unless it's for emergency medical services where nobody can be denied treatment. If you bothered to read the eligibility requirements for Medicaid, you would see that. And this is the thing. They're all like robots. They're like robots. Like, all they do is just cite, oh my gosh. They're always quick to cry about the cuts for the programs that never mention how much money they waste on illegal immigrants. Healthcare access for people is not a waste of money. Like, that's the thing. Why do people want to discriminate to people based on citizenship status? Don't you think it's better for our national security for everyone to be in good health? Like, think about it like that. Don't you think that we would be a much better country if everyone within our borders has access to healthcare, a good education? Of course, we want to vet for citizenship status. Of course, we want to make sure that people with nefarious intentions are not given those access. Sure. But like undocumented people, most of them are fleeing violence in their home countries. The loss of economic opportunity, environmental stability. Their kids are being recruited for gangs. Why is it that Republicans always are like, oh my gosh, so snobbish about trying to, like, citizenship? How about you literally live ethically and look at people as people and not, or are you a part of this specific group or not? Like, this is the thing. Stop focusing on people's differences and focus on what we all have in common. We are all people within the borders of our country. It's important to give healthcare, access, education, and empowerment to everyone within our country. Why are Republican politicians and MAGA voters so snobby when it comes to anyone who is not like them? Is your whole politics are truly based off of marginalizing and otherizing other people? And then you have the audacity to go to church on the next Sunday and say, well, I love everyone. I love everyone. I follow Jesus. Jesus loves you. Jesus is shaking his head, banging it against a wall because of your stupidity. What is it like taking a pro-cruelty position? What is it like taking a pro-cruelty position? Like, it's just so sad. It's so sad to see people that just, you advocate for taking away healthcare from the most marginalized people. That's so awful. That's so awful. Someone's like, go to school and retake civics class. I have a degree in political science, dude. I have a degree in political science. I almost graduated with a 4.0 GPA. Don't be telling me to go back to school. It's so funny. Every single time I lay out talking about empathy, critical thinking, looking at all of this stuff in perspective, the only best thing that you can do is try to give some low-level insult. Why is it that whenever I talk about these things, the only thing that MAGA could do, all these far right-wing trolls ever do, is call me gay in the chat, or just yell and scream, or project, or do whataboutism? Why can't you ever give a defense of your arguments? Because your arguments are based off of false information. Why is it that you can't respond substantively to my comments and instead resort to whatever low blow attempt that you have that makes you look like a clown? It's because y'all don't have anything. It's okay to admit when you are incorrect. I admit when I'm incorrect about something. I do. I've done it before. Why can't y'all? Undocumented people are not receiving Medicaid, huge Medicaid services. That's not a thing. It's not. And for the small Medicaid services that they do get, it's emergency medical services. Or some sort of health and supplemental nutrition for pregnant women, recently born kids. You're going to advocate taking that away from people? And then you're going to be like, I'm pro-life. You cannot be pro-life and advocate taking away supplemental nutrition assistance programs for undocumented people. Sorry, you can't. Because how are you going to play God and say whose life matters and whose life doesn't? So did God only save a specific group of people? Or did he save everybody and calls on you to love everybody? Deport a MAGA, keep an immigrant. What is it like taking a pro-cruelty position and then trying to turn around and claim that you love everyone? See, to everyone who is a viewer here, like one of the quiet listeners, you see the absurdity. You see the absolute absurdity all over it. And this is the thing. You don't have to bend over backwards to do this. Why are you taking such a pro-cruelty position? Why? What's the point in taking such a pro-cruelty position? You're not defending the rights of American citizens. You're not. If you are advocating for the weakening of a certain portion of our population, you are actually opening us up to an even further risk of national instability. Can you not agree that when everyone receives healthcare, everyone receives education, when everyone receives empowerment and the resources within our borders, that we have a stronger country? This is the thing. A lot of MAGA always plays these like zero-sum games. They think that if some people are given some advantages like the rest of us, all of a sudden it's like, oh, we have less for me. It's not personal. We all just need to be taken care of. Why do people discriminate based on immigration status? Why? It's not a big deal. As long as we vet people and make sure that they are not nefarious in their intentions. Like, to anyone who is like, well, they're not a citizen, they're not a citizen. Well, neither was Jesus. If you were to take away, stop fear-mongering so much about citizenship. Stop. Stop fear-mongering so much about citizenship. Look at people as not citizens or non-citizens. Look at people as people. You say, oh, well, that's radical. That's crazy. Is it? Is it? There are a lot of, I guarantee that you know undocumented people, whether you realize it or not. A lot of people in this country are undocumented. They've been here for years. Many of them have been here for years. They're people. They work in your hospitals. They work in your nursing homes, taking care of your elderly people. They work at your local coffee shop. They stock the shelves at your local grocery stores. These people are the folks that build the roads that you drive on every day. They're the ones that are the maintenance workers, the people who clean your office buildings. They are a fundamental part of your community. Are you really advocating for them to lose what little support that they get from our government? And you say that you have a pro-life position. Why does it always have to be a zero-sum game? If, this is where we need to take care of everyone. Provide support for everyone. It's not radical, it's reasonable. It's reasonable to want to make sure that everyone in our country has access to stuff, has access to healthcare, access to education. It's not radical, it's reasonable. We are a stronger country when everyone has the empowerment and support that they need. It actually is better for our national security when we're all doing better off. I don't understand why some people are so cruel. How does taking away healthcare, how does attempting to take away healthcare from the most vulnerable people make it better for you? How does that work? How does that work? How does that work at all? Also, we wouldn't have to worry about citizenship as much if we actually had a system that worked, that vetted people quickly and made them become citizens. That's a whole other topic. Anyway. I hope all of that is really, really helpful for understanding this whole thing. Now, to further go in on Joni Ernst here, she issued this apology video that was kind of like satirical and a joke, where she doubles down on her "we're all gonna die" defense of Medicaid cuts. She did this while walking through a cemetery. I find that to be incredibly disrespectful. I'm actually gobsmacked at how rude and awful that is. How can you make a satirical video talking about how people are going, you're like, oh, well, people are going to die, while defending cuts to healthcare, and you do it while walking over the graves of people who are already dead? Oh, God, that's just, it's humiliating. The people of Iowa, American citizens deserve better. MAGA, you deserve better than this fool. You do. You do. It doesn't matter that who or what you are. It doesn't matter. We deserve better as a country than people who do crap like this. It's not funny. It's not cute. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. If a Democrat were to have done that, it would be just as disgusting. Senator Ernst's cemetery apology for Medicaid cuts is a macabre joke. I don't know what macabre joke means. Her "we're all gonna die" line, followed by a bizarre tooth fairy to Jesus pivot, shows her detachment from reality. Cutting healthcare isn't a philosophical debate. It's life or death for millions. Why doesn't Joni just give up her sweet taxpayer-paid healthcare plan? According to her reasoning, it's not needed. Ernst Cemetery Stroll and Tooth Fairy Quip mock the life and death stakes of Medicaid cuts. Her apology is a cruel joke, not a retraction. Iowans deserve better than this callous disregard. I mean, so true. So true. Congratulations on the Republicans on being honest about who you are. Next, we'll see ICE agents remove their masks. Unbelievable. Joni Ernst strolls through a cemetery to justify slashing Medicaid. You can't make this horror movie logic up. Who scripts this? Tim Burton? And again, people are like, oh, well, spare us your manufactured outrage. Democrats are only upset because illegals are being cut out of Medicaid. You cheating Democrats can't win elections without them. Your party is done. They'll self-deport. You cannot vote unless you are a citizen. Oh my God. Let me say that again. You cannot even register to vote unless you are a citizen. You can't vote if you are not a citizen. But that all being said, again, undocumented people are not on Medicaid. They're not. The only small, tiniest little bit that they get is emergency medical services. Emergency medical services. And WIC. Let me go through those things again. Let me say clearly for anyone who just scrolled in the live. Undocumented people are not on Medicaid except tiniest of tiny bits of coverage. Those tiniest of tiny bits of coverage are in WIC and EMTALA. I know it might get dry for just a second, but go with me here, all right? Under the law, undocumented immigrants may only access federal benefits that are deemed necessary to protect life or guarantee safety in dire situations such as emergency Medicaid, access to treatment in hospital emergency rooms, or access to healthcare in supplemental nutrition program for women, infants, and children. The only small, tiniest little bit of Medicaid coverage that undocumented people get once they pass the financial requirements is for pregnant women. That's pro-life. It's pro-life that they have some expansions of Medicaid access to pregnant women who are undocumented. That's good. Breastfeeding women up to an infant's first birthday. Non-breastfeeding postpartum women up to 6 months. Infants or children. Also, EMTALA. If you go to the emergency room, they're not going to ask you for your citizenship status. They're not. Because they say, you know what? You're in an emergency, so it doesn't matter if you're a citizen or not. We're going to give you access. We're going to heal you. That's generally a good rule. That's generally a good rule. Now, if you're going to be a Hippocratic, if you're going to be a super, like, this weird Hippocratic Christian, but it's like, oh, I care about everyone, but let's take away healthcare from people who are undocumented. Jesus would be shaking his head at you. But again, in this country, we have EMTALA, which ensures that all patients, regardless of their citizenship status, can go to the emergency room for care if they are in an emergency. That's generally a good rule. Because I think we can put citizenship aside when someone is literally on the verge of death. But again, how would you feel about yourself if your ideology is pro-death? Pro-death. How are you going to argue that it's a good thing to repeal something like EMTALA? Or a good thing to repeal something like WIC? You want to take away coverage for people? Vulnerable people? Do you really, or do you dehumanize people so much that you don't see immigrants or undocumented immigrants as people? That's the kind of wild savagery stuff that Hitler did. Or that Putin did. Or not Putin, what's his face? Stalin. Like, stop dehumanizing people to the point where you don't see them as an equal or like a person. It's the kind of stuff that leads to genocides. Stop. Just because you expand access to coverage for low-income, marginalized people or any sort of undocumented person doesn't mean that you are not getting attention or care. Is your position of cruelty the point? Jesus is shaking his head at you. It's not Christian at all to advocate for cuts in healthcare access to people. If you told Jesus that you're thinking about trying to cut access to healthcare for people, he would say, "Love thy neighbor as thyself." He would say, "Welcome the stranger." Y'all know that I'm right. Look, if you're someone who is a MAGA person, this is your chance to free yourself now. You cannot be a Christian and be MAGA. Sorry, you can't. You can't. You have to pick one. You have to pick one. You cannot be Christian and be MAGA at the same time. It is not possible. Otherwise, you are a living embodiment of hypocrisy. You can't. You cannot be both. Otherwise, you are literally advocating for all the positions politically that go against your religion. You can't be advocating for stuff in the Bible if you are MAGA. It doesn't match up, doesn't make sense. It is not possible. You cannot advocate to take away poor people's healthcare or healthcare for undocumented people, whatever small amount that they might get, and say that you support someone like Jesus, who was an undocumented immigrant himself. Anyway, I don't know how else to say it. I don't know how else to say it. Now, I am going to shift topics here. Or I'm not shifting topics, but I'm going to add something else to this. There is someone that is actually challenging. There's someone challenging Joni Ernst. So this person that walks through a cemetery talking about, she's like, "Oh, well, we are all going to die. So this MF said pro-death. Yes, you are pro-death if you literally are trying to take away access to healthcare coverage. Like, I don't know how else to say that. So there is a Democratic challenger to Joni Ernst so far that we know of. It's a guy named Nathan Sage. Now, from what I've been able to gather, I personally like this guy. I think he's a good candidate to take out Joni Ernst. Or I shouldn't say take out. That's not the best way to say that. What I mean is replace Joni Ernst. To be elected in replacement of. So there was also a recent poll that actually showed him as ahead of Joni Ernst. It's only one. So we can't rely on just one poll as representative of everything. We also can't throw it away either. Again, I've always said this. I said this even back in 2024. You cannot politicize polls. You cannot say that they are the end-all be-all when it's a poll that you like and throw it away when it's a poll that you don't. You can't do that. Polls are not always accurate, but they are based on educational guesses, but also methodological, based on a methodology. My training in political science, doing a poll requires data, but it also requires assumed assumptions that can be or not can or cannot be correct. So just throwing it out there. Now, Nathan Sage, from what I see, I really, really like him. He's a Marine. He's also a mechanic, and he's a sports commentator, which I think is kind of cool. This is him. Those are some of his upcoming events. So if you're in Iowa or nearby, definitely go and check them out. The Data for Progress poll that actually showed Nathan Sage 2 points ahead of Joni Ernst. They did a poll where it was like, these are the candidates, go for it. And then they did another section where it's like, here are the candidates, here are their bios, go and read this through and see who then you support. What's interesting is the poll found the poll found that once people knew more about Nathan Sage, that they actually supported him more. And once they knew more about Joni Ernst, they supported her less comparatively. So the Data for Progress poll asked Iowa voters who they would support in a hypothetical 2026 matchups. It surveyed 779 likely voters from May 7th to May 12th, with a margin of error of plus or minus 4 percentage points. Ernst led challenger by 5 to 6 points in initial matchups, with 10% of responders saying that they were undecided. But when the pollsters read the biographies of Democratic candidates, Sage established a slight lead over Ernst. The poll found that with 2-point lead over Ernst, 47 to 45%, after his biography was read. So this is the specifics from the Data for Progress poll. I just want to show the results here. So as you can see here, when it came to once they were informed, once they read the bio, they see 47 to 45%. Now, Joni Ernst fared better against some other Democratic challengers, hypothetical Democratic challengers. But what this poll shows, it's not like, oh, Nathan Sage is leading or not. Remember, there is a margin of error of plus or minus 4 percentage points. So they're saying, well, it could be plus 4 in that direction. So that would be 51% to 41%. Or it could also be 43% to 49%. My point is there that the point of this was that when people learned more about Nathan Sage, I don't watch The View. Y'all have nothing other than whataboutisms. Oh my God. I don't watch The View, just letting you know. Although I do love older women that sit around and love gay men. So I mean, it's fun. Okay. But that all being said, I don't watch The View. I don't. It's too many opinions for my liking. That all being said, when you look at this critically, the big takeaway is that when people learn more about Nathan Sage, the Democratic challenger to Joni Ernst, the more they like him. This should worry Joni Ernst for her re-election. Plus, it's also a good idea to get some new, fresh voices in there. You know? It's a good thing to get some fresh people in there. So, Nathan Sage, just a little bit more about him. He's the executive director of the Chamber of Commerce in Knoxville, Iowa. And he has a launch video that was really, really good. I saw it the other day. I never thought someone like me could run for Senate. When I was 5, my dad got arrested for a bounced check, $50. He was trying to pay for new school clothes for me and my sister. We grew up poor, but I still believed in this country. I never thought someone like me could run for Senate, is what he said. There's a war at home and we're losing. He describes a rigged economy in which those in power don't give a damn. I'm fighting for a Democratic Party that, people like me want to actually be a part of. I kind of have a little bit of problem with that statement, but I think I'm willing to look past that kind of thing. So this was his video, and he was talking about how he's a sports commentator, he's a mechanic, he was in the Marines, blah, 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 talking about his military service. He's like, there are many places that are being abandoned, hurt by corporations and billionaires and the politicians they own. There's a war going on at home, and we're losing. Unions are under attack. Farmers over people working. Unions under attack. Farmers over people working nonstop just to survive. Too busy to enjoy life. He then goes on to talk about how corporations are literally making profit off of poisoning people and all that stuff. So he says a lot of great stuff in the video. Now, the one thing you're like, Scott, don't be a buzzkill. I do want to say, I think I have my own little form of apprehension because John Fetterman was kind of like this. You know, John Fetterman from Pennsylvania as like this working class hero, you know, white male, all about getting into the nitty gritty, calling out the corruption, all of that. And he then became a part of the establishment. He became part of that. I see this playbook a lot where they will run these super progressive campaigns. Then when they get in there, they don't do it. I'm only saying that I don't want that to be true. I don't want that to be true at all. And I'm not accusing Nathan Sage of doing that. I just fear I have my own form of like PTSD. I shouldn't say that. That's kind of disrespectful. I have my own form of worry. That could happen. I've met John Fetterman personally. I shook his hand. And like, I shook his hand when I was doing Democratic campaigns up in Pennsylvania. I just fear for situations like that, you know? So I don't want it to turn into that. Anyway, I need to take a break because I've been on live for about an hour and I love all of you. If you're looking for takeaways from the live stream today, let me give you just a couple. All right? First off, Republicans' idea of benefiting the country is cutting Medicaid and food stamps and giving tax cuts to the wealthy. It's in the one big beautiful bill. And Joni Ernst, a Republican senator from Iowa, her defense is saying, well, in response to Medicaid cuts, well, we're all going to die. So it's important to point out that all these Republican MAGA robots are saying, oh, well, we're cutting access to the healthcare for undocumented people or illegal aliens. Let me point out, undocumented people, illegal aliens, however you want to call it, do not qualify to be on Medicaid. They do not qualify to be on traditional Medicaid. They cannot enroll on Medicaid. You have to be a citizen or a lawful resident to be on Medicaid. You cannot apply. You are not eligible to be on Medicaid if you are an undocumented immigrant or an illegal alien. The one small thing where undocumented people could get some small access to Medicaid is through EMTALA. EMTALA is, let me point it out here really quickly. Hold on just a second. Again, here, they must either be citizens of the United States or certain qualified non-citizens such as lawful permanent residents in order to qualify for traditional Medicaid. It's on the official government website. Go and look at the eligibility requirements. Now, the small exceptions are for EMTALA and WIC. EMTALA it's basically the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act. It ensures that all patients, regardless of citizenship or immigration status, have access to emergency medical treatment. Access to emergency medical treatment, not coverage for funding, but access. Let me say that again. Not payment, not... So even under EMTALA, what this basically says is that you cannot be turned away for treatment based on your citizenship status. You can't be turned away from a life-critical saving emergency. The doctor's not going to be like, while you're literally about to go into the ICU, are you a citizen? It's genuinely good that we don't have that barrier, because then that person could die. Like, there is that. Then, there is also a small program called WIC. WIC is something for women, infants, and children. It provides some small supplemental nutrition assistance to people who are pregnant women, breastfeeding women up to an infant's first birthday, non-breastfeeding postpartum women up to 6 months after pregnancy ends, infants, and children. So the tiniest little bit of possible Medicaid coverage that these undocumented people get, which they don't qualify for traditional Medicaid, thereby they can't be kicked off of Medicaid because they don't qualify for that traditional coverage. But the small little bits that they do get are for pregnant women, recent born children, and for all these MAGA people, you're saying you're advocating taking that away? That's just cruel. That's just cruel. Like, why are you taking a pro-cruelty position? You cannot be MAGA and be Christian at the same time. You can't. You can't. You cannot advocate for the cutting of healthcare access and then say you love Jesus. Sorry, not possible. The hypocrisy is astounding. Like, you can't say that it's good that you're going to deny people health coverage and then go to church the next Sunday and say that you love Jesus and talks about how he loves everyone. You welcome the stranger. You cannot be MAGA and endorse tax cuts for the wealthy when in the Bible, Jesus talks about how it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of the needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. So, you cannot be MAGA and be Christian. It's not possible. You cannot claim about wanting to help everyone. You cannot claim to being some sort of a Christian, following Jesus, when you're endorsing Medicaid cuts. So, anyway, I appreciate every single one of you. Even if you don't like me, because, you know, it's just, hold on, let me turn this off. I appreciate every single one of you. I hope that this live was enlightening for some people. I hope that, you know, provided more context. If you're very curious about what Medicaid does cover, what about, or just about in general, the whole situation, definitely go and check it out. Go and look at the eligibility requirements for Medicaid. Go and look at what kind of coverage there is. The one thing I do encourage is that everyone centers their political ideology on empathy. Love, not hate. For instance, I don't hate any MAGA person coming in here trying to name call or be degrading or any of that stuff. I don't hate you. You know what's so funny? Small little side tangent before I'm done. Everyone deserves healthcare. Everyone deserves education. Everyone deserves the empowerment they need to pull themselves up to live a good life. I truly believe that everyone, regardless of their citizenship, regardless of their party affiliation, should have some dignity, should have economic opportunity, should have, you should not, doesn't matter if you are MAGA or if you are Bernie bro or if you are a typical liberal. I don't want anyone to be in pain just trying to pay their bills. Like, I fight for everyone. I fight for MAGA. I do. Y'all shouldn't be dying from a lack of healthcare coverage. Y'all shouldn't be facing the same kind of inflation that everyone else is. You shouldn't. Like, we don't have to be friends, but I think I'm going to fight for you in your whatever, like, freedoms. That's the thing. That's the thing. Y'all vote to take away LGBTQ representation. You vote to take away healthcare from my kind of people, LGBTQ people. You fight to take away that. You fight to demonize us, but yet I fight for you to have access to healthcare coverage. I fight for you to have freedoms in order to go about your life. We don't have to be friends. You don't even have to like me. But I'm going to fight for you even if you don't fight for me. Because I believe that everyone, regardless of their party, regardless of their citizenship, regardless of any of that, should have the access to live a fulfilling life. I'm going to fight for your right to healthcare, even if you don't fight for my right to my own life. Maybe you should think about that for a second. Take an empathetic position. You don't have to like me. You don't have to like me at all, but just take a position rooted in empathy for everyone, not just whatever idea you have for self-enrichment. Cool. Glad we had this talk. I love all of you so much. Shout out to my amazing moderators in here. Elisa, Ellie, I love you. Akicha, Kate, Cherie, I love all of you so much. Joanna Tech, Jenny, y'all are incredible. Elisa, I've got 7 people in my house that would otherwise be unhoused. Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, I love all of you so much. Kantisa, Akicha, I love all of you. Y'all are incredible. So I need to skedaddle. I am going to be working on a lot of content today. So I'm going to be working on a lot of content today. Ellie, love you. Just remember that you are beautiful. You are loved. You are valid. You are strong. And you are fierce. Don't let anyone or anything ever dim your shine. I love all of you so much. Bye.